So, Jeevan, can you tell me a little about the history of this beautiful little town called Merebank?
Well, Merebank can trace its origins back to around 1860, when the first colonialists from England settled on our shores. And his name doesn't come to mind right now, but he bought a 500-acre tract of land and started sugar farm. So the Merebank mill, sugar mill, came into being. Now, that sugar was quite a world renowned. In fact, we exhibited that sugar in many places around the world. In fact, in 1963, we won first prize in the Paris exhibition. So
Wow.
that's our actual history, and the name Merebank comes from the lake in the Navy area of Merebank. We now call that the Navy area, but there
Yes.
was a lake. It has subsequently been covered, and the freeway runs over it. But the lake, a lake in Great British language, uh, is a mere, a
Yes.
small body of water.
Mhm.
So the name Merebank came to be. And as it would be, our entire history of Merebank starts from around that mere, around that lake. It
Mhm.
started off with market gardeners, and it expanded into the area that we see now.
Mhm.
The mill obviously stopped operating some time ago, and so when our forebears came out of indenture, uh, R.A. Naidu, one of our scholars, writes that around 1890, the first Indian settlers started to gravitate around the lake and started their market gardening as soon as they came out of indenture. And that
Mhm.
is how Merebank grew. Yeah, so over the
Thereafter,
years, industry started coming into being, and more people started coming to Merebank. And that is the Merebank that we see right now. So Merebank actually, when you look at Merebank historically, it has two phases. The pre-township phase, which ends at around 1959, and the post-township phase from 1959 up to now. So
Wow.
we are actually recording the history and development of Merebank in the Merebank Book Project, and we're writing that 100-year history, 1900 to 2000.
Wow, the 100-year history, the centenary. That's amazing. That's amazing. And look, Merebank, as much as it was a melting pot in so many ways, it was also one of the, as you said, the most vibrant towns that fought the apartheid government. So, Jeevan, when did you first become aware of the apartheid state that some of us were born into and lived in prior to 1994?
Well, as you would know, we weren't part of the mixed township of Merebank. Now, prior to the Merebank becoming the township that it was,
Mhm.
Merebank was a melting pot of different race groups. We had white people, colored people, African people, Indians all living together. But when group areas came into being, we found ourselves living in separate communities. And having been born into that particular type of lifestyle, we knew no better. We thought that this is how people lived. Indian
Mhm.
people lived together, colored people lived together. And so my first introduction, I would think, into the fact that something was abnormal in our society
Mhm.
was when I was around 11 years of age or 12. I had
Mhm.
an elder sister who was at Merebank High, and
Mhm.
they had boycotted the Republic Day Festival. It was around 1973. And so they refused to go to school. And it was a matric year. And I remember the principal, B.A. Naidu, coming home and speaking to my dad and mom because, yeah, those days, principals and senior educators were largely collaborators with the regime. You know, uh, uh, they would ensure that we toe the line. So, so he came and spoke to my father, and my father, being an Orthodox uh, Indian male of that era, knew no better. And he was quite angry with my sister for having boycotted. And she continued to engage in all her anti-apartheid work, activist work. She joined the Merebank Ex-Student Society of the 1976 iteration of MES. And they were involved in all sorts of soup kitchens, working with poor, with the boycotts, the workers' struggles. And so that's how I came to understand that all was not right. But my actual foray into activism was around 1979 when we joined with MRA on the rates issue to decide the final settlement prices of the houses. And so that's my first introduction into activism.
Thank you for that, Jeevan. That was quite insightful and very well told, especially from somebody who lived it. There's a difference when someone lives it and when you have it written in the media, well, in those days, by very biased media. So the story was properly told by somebody who lived through it. So tell me, what is the Merebank Book Project?
Well, Michelle, you see, we as you quite rightly spoke about the colorful nature, the exciting township that we lived, and uh, and up until 1990, the early 1990s, there was no authoritative text on this exciting township that we lived. We had not recorded the various struggles, the various court cases, the various actions that we took as a community for posterity to remember us by. So at that point in time, we were all part of an organization called the Merebank Ratepayers Association, and we had a chairperson, Mr. Govindan Ramsamy. So many of those involved in struggle would know him. He was an iconic figure in the civic movement and in the political movement. And we were mentored by him, so to speak. And so at one sitting of our executive committee, he posed the question, or he asked us, he said it would be a good idea to document the history and development of Merebank. And so Mr. Viren Singh, who is currently the convener of this project, was the then secretary of Mr. Govindan Ramsamy, and he was Mr. Govindan Ramsamy's key lieutenant. Viren was a lawyer, is a lawyer. And Viren was the first to volunteer and said, I will lead this project. And so it began. It began in the early 1990s. But it didn't take off to a very smooth start. Viren did a few drafts and sent it out for comment and review by activists, older activists and veterans. And he wasn't quite happy with the kind of responses that he was getting. So around 2022, he gathered around him a team of 10 members, 10 of us, who were community workers in the 1970s, 80s era. And he asked us to assist in this project, which we all were quite willing to do. And that is how the Merebank Book Project came into being. So it originally had one objective, and that was to document the history and development of Merebank. But as time went by, this one objective has morphed into three objectives organically. The second objective came to revitalize Merebank and to unite Merebank. So the second objective was to unite Merebank, and the third is to revitalize the community. And that came into being because of the unique nature of this project. Now, and we've been told by many people, including the likes of Mr. Kiru Naidu, and Anivesh Singh, that this is possibly one of the first projects of this nature in the world, whereby we take a project directly to the community. So the book becomes a book of the community, by the community, for the community. And it's a totally non-profit venture. So we've basically set up an NPO under the auspices of the Merebank Book Legacy Trust. So the trust, the Merebank Book Legacy Trust, will handle the business end of the project. It will house our intellectual capital, our patents, our trademarks, and all the surpluses that accrue from the sale of the book.
Wonderful, wonderful on handling it in such a professional manner. Well done. Kudos to all of you.
Yeah. And so we have decided that in order for that trust to be representative of the entire community, we will nominate people from the various sectors. For example, in sport, in the aged, in youth, in healthcare, in education, so that we get a wide representation of what the community is all about. And in so doing, we will try and revitalize it. We've already started that process in earnest. Right now, we've seen a community garden committee being called Neville's Community Garden. It came up as a direct result of the Merebank Book Project and has been revitalized. It's a small tract of land that was barren. It was a jungle, practical jungle, and a gentleman by the name of Neville Modley, assisted by Roshan Ramdeen, they started clearing up this area. And today it's a wonderful piece of land. We've got swings, we've got garden patches, we have yoga sessions there, we have a tea garden, and people, the entire community can use that free of charge. So that's one project. The other projects are legacy projects of ex-students. Now, there are lots of people in our social media platforms. So when we took this to the community, we set up 2 social media platforms: WhatsApp chat group and Facebook. And now we have around 2,000 members on these chat groups. So they make up of very, very important people in the community. It's as a cross-section of people of the community. Many of them are, and most of them have come from Merebank. So they want to give back into Merebank via legacy projects in the schools. Merebank I has a legacy project. The other schools are also on the verge of getting these projects going. And the sports federation, we have now started the sports. So sports in Merebank was at a slump. Football was at a slump. Cricket was at a slump. Athletics was at a slump. And because of Merebank Book projects now becoming revitalized and infused in new energy, and our members are taking an active role in trying to get these bodies into operation strongly right now.
Wow, that is phenomenal. This is civic action at its best. So, would you say that the residents of Merebank were broken by the apartheid government during that displacement from their homes to the settlement in this new town created for people uprooted during that era? Let's talk about how they overcame such evil to become one of Durban's most vibrant, gifted, talented, highly educated, culturally aware, entrepreneurial communities.
Michelle, on the contrary, I don't think these people that were settled in Merebank were broken by apartheid. On the contrary, they were infused in new energy to struggle against what they perceived as being a grave injustice. So you would see that in the various organizations that came into being at that particular time, the various ratepayer associations, the religious bodies, the social clubs, the women's groups. We were rich in organization, and they all came together with the purpose of uniting the community and trying to make the best of a bad situation. And in doing so, they've taken Merebank from a place that was supposed to be a kind of a banishment and made that into an exciting, a vital community. So, and you'd see that in terms of the Merebank had established itself as a bastion of the anti-apartheid movement. It had 3 major court cases against the city council, which was unheard of because we used every facet of every tool available to us to try and overcome our situation. And our community got together, they rallied together. And in some of those court cases, people actually wanted their own houses in order to fund those cases. Now, that's unheard of in today's society. The level of commitment, the level of community, and the level of care that people exercise towards each other. So the community rallied together. And this is what we are trying to do right now. One of our catchphrases right now in the Merebank Book Project is to bring Merebank back to its glory days. And we consider those days glory days.
So in terms of development, because I do remember the housing the way the housing was arranged in Merebank and how we all lived around a refinery, you know. And let's talk about the health issues that came out of there.
Yeah. So, Michelle, Merebank has a rich history in uh, in environmental struggle. In fact, on the 22nd of April was International Earth Day, and we put up a few notices on a chat, a few historical remembrances of how we engage with the offending industries in the area. Merebank, led by the Merebank Ratepayers Association, we had installed a first environmental project unit, a EPU. And I think that was the first in the province, which its sole task was to monitor, evaluate, and report on the pollution in the area. And in this way, we were able to engage with, say, engine, Mondi's, Natal cane byproducts, chrome chemicals, all the neighboring industries when they violated environmental bylaws or regulations. And this was a constant battle with the industries. We truly believe, had we not engaged in the manner that we did, Merebank would have become a cloud where industries would have overtaken us. They would residents would have had to have a secondary place in the entire scheme of things. So, right, we had engaged without fear or favor. We had taken on all the major industries, and they were all multinational conglomerates. And in those days of pre-94, the industries were proxy government institutions, in a sense, because they had the might of the state's security forces with them to take on people that were peacefully protesting. And one thing comes to mind is when we marched against Mondi's. The Mondi's, if you remember, those articulated trucks were causing havoc on the roads. They were damaging our roads. They were a danger to our residents. And it all came to head when one of our members of the MRA lost his life in an accident near Merebank where an articulated vehicle was involved. So Merebank, the Ratepayers Association decided to take this matter up in earnest. And we asked Mondi's to build a second link road, into the second access road into Merebank from the back of Merebank. If you know Merebank, from the cemetery area rather than coming through the residential area. Mondi's refused to do that. So in turn, what we did as a ratepayer association, we mobilized the entire community. We blockaded the mill. We put a chain across the road, the entrance of Travanco Drive, where the Mondi's trucks came out, and we had late night, all night vigils. We had 24-hour guards sitting there and ensuring that no vehicle enters or leaves the Mondi. So that was the height of our militancy against these industries, and we were prepared to take them on at any level. So much so that Harry Oppenheimer himself dispatched the CEO of Anglo-American Industries, Industrial AMIC, to come and negotiate with us. Tony Traha was his name, and he came down and negotiated. And we eventually got the road. But it wasn't before we had some major incidents. In fact, there was a march where we had women and children marching against Mondi's, where the security forces opened up with dogs, with tear gas and batons. And one of our ladies, Malika Ramat, was seriously injured while she was pregnant by a tear gas canister which hit her on the side of her head. And she was bleeding profusely. So those were the kind of actions that we took against the industry to ensure that it did not degenerate the area. So the young people of Merebank should understand that what is happening right now is as a result of the actions taken by the activists of the past.
Of past, yes. And you describe a vibrant, intelligent, organized community. This was not, a people just accepting the oppression. That was a very oppressive government to live under. This aspiration to be elite and to live the elite lifestyle, because that's what we looked at and we couldn't have it all those years. It's actually a very false way to be. And sadly enough, we've passed it on to the children. We need to erase that. And I'm so impressed that you all have rejuvenated community life, because our communities, as we knew it, it seems that there's another community that had no understanding of who we were, what we even are as a people, even 30 years later, because that government thrived on misconceptions in the media, in the written matter that was being publicized and moved along the publication circles the way they moved material those days, because certain books were not allowed, certain writings were not allowed, but we were doing it all in Merebank. We had free reign in our little communities. And I think that's what I'm enjoying about what you have brought back. You've given people the reason to reimagine and dream again, Jeevan. You and all of your colleagues within the book project. This has brought back a sense of community. You've given credence to our lives and where we came from and where we were born, because there is that part of society where we revered a certain lifestyle, but it wasn't ours. We revered a certain way, but it wasn't ours. So, what were actually our dreams, our visions, our hopes? You have all brought it back because you're reminding us of the why, of the where, of the how, and of course who, because there are actors on the stage in the early days who gave rise to this, and here you all are taking it forward. So, Jeevan, on that note, what is being done to fundraise for this phenomenal book project? Because this kind of project needs funding. It needs that burst of finances where you can get the story out to heal, bring hope, spread compassion.
So I'm glad you asked this question, Michelle. At the onset, our convener, Viren Singh, made this pledge to the community. He said not one single cent of the money used from the sale of the book will be used for its production. Now, we were all quite upset at that time. We said, please, that means that we're going to raise the entire amount from 400,000 rand to write this book. We were thought that we would do it organically. We would buy, print some books, sell some print, but Viren was insistent because he truly believes that the Book Legacy Trust should house all the surpluses that will be used for bursaries in the community, that will be used to uplift women's rights, that will have adult literacy classes, that will help in the sporting upliftment for underprivileged children, sporting gear, and capacity building within the organizations. So he believed that those funds should be set aside for those things, that they shouldn't be utilized in the production. So it leaves us with a massive task of trying to raise the funds, approximately between 300,000 and 400,000 rand, to print, publish, and distribute the book. And at the very onset, we did not ask for any money from the community. For the first 6 months, we said we are not going to raise any funds until we know there's a very distinct possibility of the book being written and emerged. We didn't want to take any funds under false pretenses. So when we were relatively certain that a book was in the offing, we had some fundraisers. We had a rock concert. We had an Eastern extravaganza, firstly, where we had artists that gave up the time freely, music, and we want to thank them from this platform for doing that. And we raised around 50,000 rand. And thereafter, we had a rock concert. And there too, we want to thank all those musicians, all those artists, those people that have helped us free of charge to raise funds. And we raised another 50,000 there. And we've had some anonymous donors that gave us some funds. And we are sitting with around 160,000 rand in fund, which is nowhere near what we need to complete the book. So our major project right now, as we said, and which is in intense planning and organizing mode, is the Merebank Fair. So I'm not sure, Michelle, if you remember the fairs of the 1990s, now where we had them in Badula Drive Ground, where we had the big wheel with Eddie's, Tommy Chetty's Fun Fair, and all of that. Now, the person that planned it then was our then Secretary of MRA, Roshan Ramdi. He's a brilliant organizer. We have nominated him again to handle this project. So it's going to be held over 2 weekends in July. In July. And we intend to raise a substantial amount of money, which hopefully will cover the cost of printing and publishing the book. And so we will be going out with our posters, our social media flyers. We'll be asking for sponsors to sponsor an event, sponsor the stage, sponsor the song. And we hope that the people listening would come to our aid. They know that we have a great project. The funds are going to a noble cause. And we sincerely hope that we will get the kind of response that we hope to. And finally, I left best for last. We have had a wonderful digital painting donated to us by a internationally acclaimed artist, yourself, Michelle, and we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, the Merebank Book Project, for doing that. And we are hoping that we would raise sufficient funds. We are still examining the mechanism in which to use your wonderful donation. Would it be an online auction? Should it be an auction where we invite corporates together? So we've got a committee right now that is dissecting the various methods of maximizing your contribution. We want to thank you for that. And at this juncture, I just want to say that we in the Merebank Book Project are merely the scribes. We are merely writing down what happened in history. We are not the main actors. There were many people that gave up so much of themselves right from the turn of the centuries, the Josies, the Mnasis, the Singhs, the M.R. Modleys, who gave fantastic amount of his time leading the community, the Nadesans, the Lalus, the Arasas, and the Kubi Naikas, the Mani Governors, the GS Governors, the Billy Jaggernauts, Spider Jaggernauts, Satish Jaggernauts, coastal governor who has inspired our community on this militant path that we've taken. And so those are the people, those are the heroes. We speak of Kistan Doraisamy, the first Indian guy, member of MK to go in prison for 11 years from Merebank. He was part of a sabotage unit together with Ronnie Castro's, Billy Nair, and he was imprisoned for those are the people that inspired this community. And those are the people that this book will be a tribute to. In fact, the book will be written in 3 parts. The first part will document the history and development of Merebank chronologically and focusing on fact and historical accuracy. The second part will be the celebration of Merebank, where we'll talk of the various accolades of Merebank, the wonderful football stars like Victor Govindsamy, Naresh Ranjit, Rajan Naidu. We'll talk about the soccer teams like Santos, Berlin Cosmos, like Colchester Rovers. We'll talk of the cricketers in the area. We'll talk of Mr. Kolya, the brilliant sporting administrator who has done so much for sport in Merebank. We'll talk of Mr. Chippen. We'll talk of Mr. Ramya. We'll talk of all those greats that came before us. We are just putting all this together. We are not the main actors. In fact, none of us will take personal credit for any article that we've written in the book. That is the pledge that we've made. There'll be no single author. We won't take a cent. It'll be a book by the community, for the community, and help the community.
Wow, that is incredible. That is so, it's so selfless, the project. That's really how we are supposed to live life, selflessly. And you've given it all of you on the project have given it your all. You believe, if we believe in anything, Jeevan, we can actually live to see it. But we've got to believe. So I have to ask one very important question.
Okay.
Who are the women on the project?
So basically, we have a lady by the name of Logos Madanla. She's the secretary of the program. She holds a very key portfolio there. And unfortunately, as my daughter also asked me the very same question, she said, your gender weighting has been totally askew here. And unfortunately, we have mostly males on the project. We have 10. Can I name them quickly? I haven't named them previously.
Please
It's
do. Go
led
ahead.
by Biren Singh with the convener. Myself, I'm the secretary. We have Dr. Ashok Chandika, Kumaresan Govender, Prakash Naidu, Ashok Kumar Madanlal, Siva Chetty, Ish Ramkisun, Spider Jagannath, and Logos Madanlal. I hope I've remembered all the names. But those are the people that are really working flat out to get this book out. Some of them may not be in the media as much often as I am, but nevertheless, they're probably working harder than I am at this particular moment. So I want to thank them also, and I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to put ourselves out there, to put the project out there. And another thing I want to say that, Michelle, is that one may believe that one may think at face value the project looks like a very parochial one that is very localized in a particular area, but that is not our intention. We have a much bigger view of this. We believe that, and we've been engaging with other communities on this idea. We believe that we are creating a template for a method in which the nation build, because we truly believe that when we build a community, we can build a nation. And we've been speaking to people from Lemontville, from Mlazi, from Cato Manor, from other areas who are excited about what we are doing. They're seeing the effects of a very simple project to write about the community and the spill-offs of what's happening. And we believe that it can be done at a very low cost level of inspiring other communities throughout South Africa. And we are quite prepared to share all our ideas and our methods and to give our working plan to anyone who wants to. So in that way, we believe that we would be sharing a beautiful initiative with the rest of the country.
Marvelous. That is marvelous. I tell you what, Jeevan, it will go far. It will go far because I think that's the weakness of our democracy. And I don't hold anyone to blame. I don't believe in blame. I don't believe in accountability. However, we need to stop blaming because I think that's the Merebank spirit. We never blamed, but we went full on. And when we were coming, they had to watch us. That's the way it worked in Merebank, and that's my memory of it. So well done on that. Because as with all good projects, it costs something to give it life and to make it happen. So when you're reaching out to former Merebankers who are now living in other parts of the world, and there are many of them, and they want to donate to the project, do you have a PayPal?
Michelle, currently we have our bank accounts that are the traditional bank account, but we intend setting up a PayPal account because we have had several inquiries from our expatriates throughout the world, Australia, Europe, and North America and the UK, and it will really help us because you'll be coming in with your art currency. Your $1 is worth 15 rand. So, a mere $100 from your side will be around 2,000 rand for us, which will make a substantial difference to our project. And we know that we will get your support because there are many of us, ex-Merebankers that have been spread around the world. And we know that are going to get their support.
That's marvelous because PayPal is so easy. Look, the traditional banking it's great too, but we live in a quick world. We live in a digital world. It's 21st century, and PayPal is so 21st century. I mean, you just go in there, boom, you've made a payment or you've taken a payment. It's quick, it's easy. So, Jeevan, it was inspiring having you here, and I'm also very humbled because I have my childhood memories intact of Merebank. And wow, I think everything I am today and everything I produce, even in my world of art and how I think in my world, Merebank has helped to keep me young. I'm not getting old. So...
You don't look old, Michelle.
Well, I am pretty old now. But the thing is, just growing up in that vibrant community, you had another mindset, and I preserved it, Jeevan, my whole life. I fought to keep that mindset. What can I do? I have to use my activism. It's who I am. And no matter where I go, what I do, I will always tell that story because Merebank is ingrained in me. And therefore, my art goes out in that way. I've connected with all the wonderful civil rights activists abroad through my work. They also worked tirelessly to free us while we were under apartheid. They did amazing work. They took us into sanctions, then they rewrote the laws to take us out of sanctions. And I know these people. So the thing is, my activism, which was born in Merebank, went next level. And I believe once an activist, always an activist. It's just who we are.
Absolutely.
It's just who we are. So thank you for preserving my history in the little town called Merebank. Thank you for that. And God bless you and everyone on the book project for your vision and the foresight. And this is incredible planning. You were all executives and professionals. Merebank produced high level intelligence. And people who can ever even imagine that those lives will produce this, but it has happened, and that you all are producing this book in the various phases, and the dream moving through the arts, sports, and whatever sphere you are working within. That's great vision. You guys could run a country, my honest opinion. You could, because that kind of planning, it's next level, it's cutting edge. So keep doing what you're doing, and who knows where this will all go. But my encouragement is bring more women in and involve the youth.
Absolutely. You see, Michelle, that's always been our bit of bugbear with us, trying to get the youth involved. We were fortunate when we were growing up in the early 80s. We had joined an organization called MES, Merebank Ex-Student Society. And if you find almost 90% of us on the Merebank Book Project have come from MES. We worked there. And thereafter, we went to the MRA, Merebank Ratepayers Association. So we had our grounding in activism at that very early stage in a youth organization. And unfortunately, we don't see so many youth organizations right now. But hopefully, with the work and the activity of the Merebank Book Project, we want to catalyze these type of formations. We want to get youth organizations. The name MES is synonymous with struggle. We were the first youth organization in the country to affiliate to the UDF, to sign the UDF charter. So it was a big thing. And as you well know, the UDF went on to play a major role in the liberation of this country. So that is the type of youth that we have. Then we developed them in various spheres, in sports and in all other areas. And just as an aside, we were so responsible in those days as students when the country was out in boycotts in the 80s and 1980, and where children were expelled from school. We actually held our own school, informal school at the Presbyterian Church in Merebank. We constituted a school, and Viren our current convener, we made him the principal of that school. We were barely in our early 20s, and we taught maths, we taught physics, we taught accounting to all those, and many of them are around. We have people like Professor Menege Reddy, who was the vice chancellor at UK's. She was part of this organization at then. She was also part of that school at that point in time. And that is where we come from. We have Dr. Ridwan Pillay, who is currently sitting at The Hague. He holds a very high position in The Hague, and he also comes from that Merebank era. Dr. Ashok Chandika was on the news last night on Lotus, on 30 years of democracy, is another part of that project. So you can't discount the formative effect that youth organizations have in the youth of the day, in engaging them on activism, because right now we see very few youth activists in our area in Merebank, and that's sad, because Merebank is synonymous with activism, and we want to bring back those glory days. Michelle, thank you so much. I can sense from my engagement with you that you have such a deep commitment to Merebank and to the project. And I've made some notes here, and we're definitely going to be calling on you to even act as a consultant to us on the Merebank Book Project. And I love your passion for doing what you're doing. They say that you can take the girl from Merebank out of Merebank, but you can't take the Merebank out of the girl. And I think that's basically sums up your attitude toward the world.
You can't.
And so I want to thank you once again, and we look forward to future conversations.
Thank you very much. And thank you for putting my grandmother's picture in the first few pages of the book. I was very proud of her and all the ladies in that temple society who represent Merebank. Those were the stalwarts. Thank you for that. And God bless you, your family, and the entire team on the book project.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Take care. Take care, Jeeven. God bless.